Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'll be discussing my free hit team for blank game week 32. To begin with, in goal I've selected Sam Johnston for Crystal Palace's home encounter with Everton. Palace have now won 3 Premier League matches in a row under Roy Hodgson and looked fairly convincing in each of those victories. On the other hand, Everton had a disappointing 3-1 home defeat to Fulham last week, meaning they've only won 1 out of their last 9 league matches. With Guaita likely to be ruled out with a calf injury, I'd expect Johnston to continue his run and goal, and last week he returned a very impressive 9 FPL points. At Selhurst Park, I fully expect Palace to be the dominant force in this game and come away with the 3 points. Kieran Trippier joins the back line for Newcastle's home fixture versus Tottenham. Both Spurs and the Magpies slipped up last week in their pursuit of a Champions League spot, losing to Bournemouth and Aston Villa respectively. Many will see the outcome of this game as a 50-50 call, but I personally think Newcastle will edge out a result, as they've been very impressive at home this season, and their high press will likely be too much for Tottenham to handle. With the intensity that Newcastle play at, I can see them winning a lot of set pieces in this match, and it wouldn't surprise me if Trippier is pivotal to providing assists for the forward players. Next up in defence, I've gone for Andy Robertson for Liverpool's home match with Nottingham Forest. Although this is a blank game week for some of the teams with the most popular assets in FPL, there are other teams with favourable fixtures, and Liverpool have to be towards the top of that list. Forest have been absolutely dreadful away from home this season, having only won 1 out of 15 and scoring just 5 goals across those games. The worry with going for Liverpool players is the fear of rotation, and that's why I think it's a good idea to side with their defence over their attack for this one. If you're going with Robertson, then you'll probably end up doubled up on Liverpool's defence with Alexander-Arnold, and I personally think that's a sensible move on a free hit for this game week in particular. Forest have the worst away record in the division, and along with their poor goal scoring record, they've also conceded 36 away from home, which is the second most under Bournemouth. Although they've been far from consistent this season, we have seen some impressive performances from Liverpool, especially at home, and for a player like Alexander-Arnold, I think there's a good chance of both a clean sheet and an attacking return this week. One player who I brought into my team last week only for him to return a massive 16 points was Eberechi Eze, and I'm going to include him here in the starting 11 again for my free hit team this week. Crystal Palace face Everton this week, who have conceded 8 goals in their previous 3 matches, and now find themselves very much amongst the relegation dogfight. On the other hand, Palace have won their last 3 games and scored 9 goals in that time. Since Roy Hodgson was reinstated as manager just a few weeks ago, Eze has played 3 sets of 90 minutes. He's on most set pieces and often finds himself in dangerous attacking positions. Mo Salah is probably the only Liverpool attacking asset I'd fully trust to start this week against Forest, and it feels like a no-brainer to include him here on a free hit. Although Liverpool's performances have been all over the place this campaign, let's not forget that they managed to put 9 goals past Bournemouth at Anfield, and more recently 7 past United. And with Forest's poor away record, there's no reason why another dominant display couldn't be on the cards. Salah has returned in each of Liverpool's last 4 home matches, and although there's uncertainty whether he remains on penalties, he's a player that offers enough goal threat from open play. In my opinion, one team we definitely need to be targeting this week is Southampton, by bringing in Arsenal assets. Gabriel Martinelli is probably the pick of the bunch at the moment, as he looks to be one of the Gunners' most likely route to goals. Martinelli has now returned 7 goals and 3 assists in his last 9 Premier League games, and those concerns many of us had about him being dropped for Trossard have largely disappeared, as he started every match in the league this season other than one. Southampton have looked incredibly poor for almost the entirety of the 22-23 campaign, and I can only see this game going one way. The pendulum seems to swing one way and then the other when it comes to who returns FPL points week to week between Martinelli and Saka, and unfortunately for Saka owners, last game week was one to forget, with a missed penalty. From observing Arsenal matches, Saka seems to be less involved when Jesus is on the pitch, and Martinelli appears to be the player who's given more freedom to wander into more central attacking positions. Having said that, Saka is still the third highest scoring midfielder in FPL, and Southampton look all over the place defensively. I think on a free hit there's no harm on doubling or even tripling up on the Gunners' attack. Gabriel Jesus completes my personal favourite Arsenal triple up for his home match against the Saints. Having just come back from a long-term injury, Jesus has started in his last 3 matches in the Premier League, and he's picked up an attacking return in each of those matches, equating to a total of 26 FPL points. There's definitely a question of who to select as the third Arsenal asset for this week, as players like Odegaard and the defence are all viable options. I just personally think that Jesus will be more involved in goalmouth action, and is more likely to return this week against a struggling Southampton side. Having made it through game week 31 dodging his 10th yellow card of the season, Ivan Toney is available and will almost certainly start in blank game week 32. Although Brentford have a very tough fixture this week at home to Villa, who have won 7 of their last 8 Premier League matches, I don't think it's worth overlooking Toney, especially given his consistency throughout the 22-23 season. This is a game where I certainly wouldn't trust either team's defence, but seeing as Toney is a 90-minute man on penalties, I see him as a decent pick for this week. The Bees have lost their last 3 fixtures, so they'll be eager to get back to winning ways to compete for a European spot. Ollie Watkins completes the starting 11 for Aston Villa's away trip to Brentford. Watkins has now returned from a remarkable 11 of Villa's last 12 Premier League fixtures. This run also includes scoring in 6 consecutive away matches. Although this is a tough-looking fixture away to Brentford, I honestly don't think it's worth overthinking the free hit and leaving Watkins out of the side. We saw last week against Newcastle how he's able to punish fantasy managers who go without him, and I can see a similar scenario panning out this week. Like Toney, he usually plays 90 minutes and he's on penalties, so you can bet he'll likely be involved if Villa were to score. So making the bench, I've gone for Everson, Almiron, Lloyd Kelly and Neco Williams. Everson is the backup keeper I've selected, just in case Sam Johnston were to be ruled out for any reason, while Neco Williams is the cheapest playing defender I've included to maximise spreading funds among the starting 11. As a Newcastle fan, I'm fairly confident that Almiron returns to the Magpies starting 11 this week for a huge encounter with Spurs. And finally, Lloyd Kelly is there as a defensive backup with a decent home fixture versus West Ham, in case a player like Trent or Robertson were to be unexpectedly benched. That concludes the free hit team for game week 32. What do you make of this team, and would you make any changes? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I wish you all massive rank gains this week.